Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jason and I am your watch guy today. Today I am reviewing the first automatic chronograph that's been sent into the channel. Now, I've only ever owned one other automatic chronograph, and that was or is a Breitling. So for me to be given one of these from a micro brand to review for you is something a little bit special. This one packs in a Seiko movement. I'll get into that shortly in the review. This one comes in from Soldat. They are an Indonesian family-led watchmaker, and this is their first release. Absolutely spectacular that this is what they're coming out with for their first release. If you would like to check out any more information about them, or you'd like to pick one of these up, I have linked their website in the description. Now, as I've just mentioned, this has been sent to the channel by Soldat, and I do get to keep it. So please bear that in mind while we go through this review. Otherwise, let's turn the camera around and let's get into it. This is the Promessa from Soldat. Now, this is the first automatic chronograph that I've actually been sent by a brand to review. At least I think it's the first one. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that it is. The only other automatic chronograph that I've ever had in my collection is the Breitling Chronomat. This one is packed with a Seiko movement, but it's quite a special Seiko movement. Now, when we look at automatic chronographs, we're usually looking at a Valjoux 7750 or the very, very rare in the wild SW500. Now, the production of those aren't exactly the easiest to come across. It's not exactly as accessible to a micro brand as the usual movements like the NH35, the Miyota 9000 series, etc, etc. The thing that this Seiko movement, the NE88, does is it really does make automatic chronographs accessible to micro brands, which I think is actually quite exciting for that market. Now, this is the first time that I've experienced this movement, and thanks to Soldat, I have been quite impressed by it. Now, Soldat is a brand out of Indonesia. They are a micro brand and they are still a family-led independent brand. I will get the price of this one out of the way straight away. It's not cheap, but my argument here is that it's worth it. So this one is 1250 USD. It is available on their website. I have linked that in the description if you'd like to go and have a look. Now, do remember that they did send this to me for free. So, you know, take that into account. This is an honest review, but I know people like to know that first. So let's talk about the casing. It is a big watch. It is actually 14.2 millimeters thick, including the bezel and casing there. 42.2 millimeters in diameter. They have it listed on their website as a 42mm watch. It is 49.3 millimeters lug to lug, which just falls within my wearability. However, this does fit quite nicely to wrist. And we have 20mm lugs on this one. It does really carry off that racing 60s, 70s vibe so perfectly. I think it really does embody that entire type of genre, that type of aesthetic. And I really do think that's exactly what Soldat were going for here. Now, we do have a hand winding function on this. It is an automatic also, as mentioned. Let's give this a good wind up. And then let's have a look at this chronograph function. You can see that lovely sweeping second hand. This is a 28,800 beat movement. It is a 34 joule movement, 45-hour power reserve. Now, the price of this watch isn't cheap. However, the price of this movement isn't cheap. It is actually quite a premium movement. If you wanted to pick one of these up alone, it cost you $475. More than a third of the price of this watch. So I do think that we're getting quite a fair deal on this one. One thing that I do love with mechanical chronographs is the snap back to the position. It's just, there's just nothing better than that type of precision. It's just fantastic. I love that precise type of feel to a mechanical chronograph. We also have the second hand over here ticking away very smoothly. That sweep is thanks to the 28,800 beat movement in the back of this one. This is fully built in 316L stainless steel. It is almost like a helmet type of design to me. Now, if you're thinking of the Speedmaster Mark II, I think that's exactly the type of path that you're looking along on this one. The casing is fully brushed, as I say, 316L stainless steel. I'm quite happy that it's fully brushed because it will stand up to a little knock much more than a fully polished case or a polished case. We do have some polishing around the bezel, which does distinguish that bezel quite nicely to the rest of the casing. The brushing is lineal through the case, and that separates it from the horizontal brushing to the side of this watch. I actually really do think that the finishing on this is quite premium. They've gone for a deeper brush effect on this, and I think it really does carry through the watch very well. Really helps the aesthetic and the curvature of the piece. We have simple pushers to the side, and they are almost hidden inside this casing here. We have the Soldat crown there. It is a very easy to grip coin edge crown. Again, I'll mention it is hand winding. First position is for the date, second position for the handset, as you would usually expect. Very easy to use this crown, high polish finish to it with the Soldat logo in the center. As we move to the rear of the casing, you can see that this is a very simple case back. We have some radial brushing on here with the Soldat Promessa branding there. The usual information around the outer edge. Japanese automatic movement proudly displayed above that Soldat logo. And I was referring to the movement on the inside of this one. Now it does actually say down here, made in Japan. These watches are designed in Indonesia, but they do have heavy links to the Japanese market or the Japanese manufacturing market. And you can really tell with the quality of the watch that it is built to a Japanese standard. Very well finished, very well put together. However, unlike the Seiko, it does align quite well throughout the entire watch. We have a sapphire crystal covering this blue dial, as you would 100% expect on a watch of this price. Altogether, this casing provides the watch with 50 meters of water resistance. Now, I know a lot of people wouldn't be too happy with that. However, this is a chronograph, a racing chronograph. Think of the Speedmaster, for instance. We don't expect a high water resistance rating on these. They're not meant for the water. They're not meant to be submerged. So, to be expected, to be quite fair. As we move past the casing and we will look at this dial, it's a beautiful sunburst blue dial. It really does hit the light very well. The colours range from a dark navy to a very rich, almost royal blue. Contrasting this beautiful blue dial, this sunburst blue, are these two white subdials. Now they have a vinyl type of effect on the center of them, as you see on many other chronographs, and we have the standard print around the outer edge, the standard markings for the chronograph 30-minute mark there, and obviously the second hand ticking away on this side. Now this is a 12-hour chronograph. As you can see down at the bottom here, we have the 12-hour markings. So effectively, one revolution will take it 1 minute in, and then obviously over and over we will get this 12-hour hand moving. Again, quite a premium movement, not something that you always get on a chronograph. The 12-hour marking down at the 6 o'clock is quite an unusual one for a chronograph. It's not set away from the dial like the other two subdials here. It blends into the dial very well. It has normal print around the outer edge for the markings, for the hour markings, and sat at the 6 o'clock point. At the very bottom of that there, we have a date window. That date window, again, is quite unusual. It's actually in a stainless steel type of effect with the black numeral in the center. Up at the 12 o'clock, we have the Soldat Promessa print with the Soldat logo above it. That is printed to this blue fantastic dial. Around the outer edge of the dial, we have the minute track. We also have the hour markings. They are in a rectangular fashion, as you can see, we have minute markings in between them, and in between them we have the micro markings. Now that helps to give a very accurate read on this chronograph. You can see there we stop in between the second markings themselves, and it helps to give a more accurate read to the chronograph hand. Stop that and flick it all the way back around. Again, absolutely love that mechanical click. Around the outer edge of the dial, we have this tachymeter display. That is very suiting to the racing style of this watch. The tachymeter print is all in white Arabics, as you can see, with orange markers. Now the orange markings throughout this watch really do accent it very nicely, and they flow even into the leather band, which I will come to shortly. We have an orange tachymeter print up towards the 1 o'clock here, between the 12 and 1 o'clock. That is accented also by the subdial hands and the chronograph hands. Now there's small markings throughout the dial also in an orange print, and I think that really does accent the blue very well, and it makes it much more aesthetically pleasing to get a little bit of that splash of colour on the dial. It accents the blue well, it goes very well with the navy, the royal blue type of feel to this watch. The secondary colour very nicely accenting the primary blue. As we move on to these handsets, the chronograph hands are very simple, the subdial hands very simple in design. We have sword style hour and minute hand on this one, with a stainless steel border and a lume finish to the centre. Now let's get the lights off and let's have a look at the lume shot on this one. Let's address the elephant in the room. The lume isn't the best in the world. That kind of rhymed a little bit, didn't it? Elephant in the room, lume. Ah, good me. So the lume on the hour markings is fading quite quickly. It's quite pale. Obviously, there's not much of an area for them to print that lume onto or apply that lume onto, so you can see why it's quite thinly applied. In contrast though, the handset is quite legible and it is lasting quite well. It does seem to be well applied throughout that handset, also no patchiness, and it's sticking in there quite well too. I feel like this is one of the cases where Soldat didn't have much to work with. What they've worked with is probably to the best of their ability. Now it is lasting, it is still visible. However, for this type of price range, I do feel like this is going to come into some people's minds as being a little bit of a letdown. However, as I say, the handset is still quite well lumed. It's just that dial, unfortunately. As we move away from the head of the watch and we move towards the band that is supplied with, this is a genuine calf leather band. Now it feels very, very premium on wrist, and you can tell that it's good quality. We have a blue dye to it with an orange stitch through the sides. Again, that really does accent the colours of the watch. That secondary orange coming very nicely across the primary blue. We have two keepers up to the side. This rally style strap really does play very well with the design of the watch, with the feel and genre that this watch is trying to achieve. As we move on to the buckle itself, you can see that we have a really nice level of finishing on this actually. A few pieces of polish while the rest is brushed completely through. And we also have a really nice chamfered edge along the edge of this clasp. It's nice to see that they've put work into every part of the watch. Obviously at this price point, that is what you need from a watchmaker, and Soldat have done that. As mentioned, the band is very nice on wrist. I will pop it on for a little wrist shot here before we get into a moan section. This is the Promessa on wrist. As I did mention in the intro, it is a big watch. However, with that slightly shorter than 50mm lug to lug, it does fit well to my wrist, and this really nice leather band does help quite a bit. I have really enjoyed wearing this one, to be fair. Obviously not an everyday wear with the size of it. However, it is a really nice occasion piece, and it is definitely one that I do enjoy showing off. Now, I may have been sent this $1,000 plus watch for free, and I may get to keep it, but it does not escape the moan section. So my first complaint with this one is the size. It is absolutely massive, and I'm not too sure if they've made the best use of the size itself. I'm not too sure how big that movement is inside this casing. I do like what they've done with the chapter ring, and I do like that it adds a lot of depth to the watch itself. So I wouldn't really take that away. However, maybe if there's any space towards the back, they could have shortened this slightly, but I know a chronograph, automatic chronograph movement isn't the tiniest in the world to work with. Secondly, I know what everyone's going to be saying in the comments. The price of it is going to put a few people off. Now, this isn't the watch for you if you're only into the budget market, or you're only into a budget scene below £500. Seiko diver type of territory, you know, the samurai turtle type of market. This probably isn't for you. However, for someone who wants something completely different to the usual, and they want a premium movement, and they want an automatic chronograph, this would be absolutely perfect, because it is at an accessible price. Just under £1,000, over $1,000 obviously, but I do think that it is a fair price. It's a fair assessment of what quality goes into this watch. So I can understand where the price point has come from and why they've had to put it above that $1,000 threshold. However, I understand the materials and the work that will also go into this watch, and I do think that it's worth it. I just don't think that everyone will be too pleased with the pricing. Thirdly, the Lume. Obviously, they haven't given themselves much to work with the indices. Very tiny real estate on them to get some Lume onto it. However, I would have liked to have seen a better Lume signature from them. Maybe something to work to in the next release. Speaking of which, I really am looking forward to seeing what Soldat do next. It's not very often that you see a brand come out of the blocks the first release with a automatic chronograph, a really premium watch, a plus $1,000 piece. They really threw everything at the wall here, and I think it's stuck. I really hope that the next watch that the guys at Soldat, that Jesse at Soldat produces, is just as good as this one, if not better, because that will make them a very exciting prospect for this year for me. If you'd like to check out their website, it is linked below. Thank you to Jesse for sending this in. It is an absolute beauty, and I am really going to appreciate this. Jesse from Soldat, my man, you make a fantastic watch. I mean, it's just beautiful in every single way, and the movement really does top it off. For it to be such a premium movement, and for it to be a microbrand, to know that this has come from one person or one very tiny team, it's just a little bit more special than the usual thing, isn't it? It's a little bit more special than going to Goldsmiths and picking up a £3,000 Breitling. It's just that little bit extra for me, I think. Now, if you'd like to pick one of these up, as mentioned in the intro, you can do with the link in the description. Soldat are still a microbrand, and this is still their first release. I really can't wait to see what they do next, because if this is how they've started, this is how they've come out of the gates, they can only go from strength to strength for me. So yeah, Jesse, next time you release something, remember Jason. Okay, nice one. Thanks for watching this one, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. The button is just below. Thanks for watching this one, guys. I hope to see you in the next one.